Travel Market Life.
Hello and welcome to the Hospitality Monthly Review Show for May. And in this episode, we are 2 panelists down. But no fear, we have got replacements for the panelists with 2 expert interviewees. In our episode today, we'll be joined by Jon Sibery, the Group Revenue Manager at Sarova, as we deep dive into the International Hotel Technology Forum and some of the conversations and presentations and insights that we gleaned during the event in April. We'll also tackle food and beverage profitability in hotels and Premier Inn's ad that was banned for promoting rooms from only £35 a night. Then we will hear from Tess Matisson, the President and CEO of Zaplox, as we discuss how to look at your tech stack and identifying the right systems and technologies. We'll then also speak to Simone Puerto about the future of technology for the hospitality industry. So, we're here. Let's get on with the show.
Welcome to Travel Market Life, your companion for industry insights and professional business development. Travel Market Life. Join us by webcast, video or podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Hospitality Monthly Review Show. Now we're a few panelists down today, but we do have Jon Sibery, Group Revenue Manager at Sarova. Thanks ever so much for coming along and joining us today, Johnny. It's great to see you back home after our time in Barcelona.
Hi Ryan, yeah, good to see you again. Trust you survived and got back in one piece. You look like you did.
Absolutely, yeah, and the journey home was much smoother than the journey out, which I was pleased with. No delays whatsoever, and it was just nice to have a smoother journey. It obviously says a lot more about Spanish airports than it does about British ones, right?
Absolutely. I had a nightmare of a journey going out, but that was more to do with highways agencies and motorway closures. Airport experience, I'm going to say both sides was really good for me. I was lucky. I did have to fork out £8 for the priority security lane or whatever it's called at Gatwick, because I was so late I would have missed my flight if I'd stood in the regular queue.
See, that's so good. It's great they've got that option now, isn't it? That you say if you're going to be late, that you can just hop, skip and jump through it. I've never used it. So what do? Do you just turn up and you just go to the counter and you sap a card and you go through?
Yeah, literally. It's the second time I've done it for the same reason that I was late and I wouldn't have made it through. And it's a gateway, and there's 2 people sat at a desk on like bar stools with a PDQ, and you walk up and they just how many people? One, they go £8, tap your card, boom, straight through.
That's crazy.
And you go straight up to the front of the queue, and then as soon as somebody moves from the conveyor belt, boom, you're directed straight through.
And there was no queue at all.
No queue. I stopped for 10 seconds.
That's
until
amazing.
The guy said to me, "Go to number 5, please," and that was it, straight through. And I tell you what, £8 as opposed to having to rebook a flight, it's the best investment ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've taken less than 40 minutes in the last couple of years to get through security. And that's on the UK side. It's very different when you're going from Europe, because when I was in Barcelona, I think that took me 10 minutes to go through, which, does put you at ease when you're trying to fly, that, you're not having to race for the gate.
Yeah.
But that's great. I'm going to have to do that next time.
Right. Yeah, it's worth it.
So coming up today, we're going to be looking at a couple of news stories and then talking about our trip to the International Hotel Technology Forum.
Travel Market Life.
Now, one of the big stories that's come out recently, Johnny, and it's really surprised me, is profitability around food and beverage for hotels. Now, HotStats has shown some really interesting data that while room revenue per available room is up 17% compared to January 2020, F&B is just 5%. But what's even worse is that we've seen profit margins within F&B fall from apparently an average of 30% pre-pandemic to 22%. And obviously that's been massively affected by so many different aspects, like increasing national minimum wage, energy costs, supply costs, I guess, and all this sort of thing. You know, what's your take on this story?
Well, Ryan, I've just been around several properties that I look after this week and last week, doing quarterly performance reviews with them. And F&B is one of the areas that we were looking at in detail. And I'll give you some stats which are quite scary. It depends on the location and the volume of covers and service that they're doing. But in some cases, the food cost alone was up to 39%. And we have wages at around 49-50%. Now, you don't need to be a mathematician to work out that already 90% of your sale revenue is gone straight away in buying the food, cooking and serving it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even allow for the gas to cook it, the water to wash up, the electric for the lighting, the cost of, you know, the linen on the tables, crockery, cutlery, all of these sorts of things. Is not, you've got 10% left to pay for everything else. And in most cases, by the time you wash it all out in the P&L at the end of the month, they're not even turning a profit at all. It's a loss leader in the hotels, some of the hotels I was looking into. But it's not something you can turn off or take away. You've just got to manage it as finely and as tightly as you possibly can to mitigate those liabilities.
It is fascinating because there is so many different aspects at play here. And one of the interesting conversations I had when I was at the IHTF this last month was with Varian Palmer from the Headland Hotel, and they've recently completely refurbished their entire kitchens and removed all their gas stoves and replaced them with electric induction heaters and cookers. And she says that they've obviously, as a result of that, eliminated their gas bill, and their electric bill has only gone up by 2%, which I found absolutely fascinating. But there's a lot more obviously areas that we need to look at of being able to cut those costs related to F&B. Where are you currently sort of like looking at where you can sort of improve those margins and squeeze a little bit more out at the moment?
Two main areas we're looking at is the suppliers, where we get the products from. Some of the hotels, you've got a much bigger selection of suppliers to choose from, and more of the more rural hotels are the ones out in the sticks. As I say, they don't have the same options of distributors that you would like to have, so you're a little bit stuck. And the other area that we're looking at is just changing the lines on some of the products that we're putting out. For example, the bacon at breakfast. To give a real world example, there's probably 3 or 4 or 5 different brands or lines of bacon you can buy, and some are a little cheaper than others, and it's going for one that costs a bit less without without compromising too much on the quality. So really that's it. And in terms of banqueting or conferences, things like that, really just controlling the portion sizes that you're putting out and the numbers of people you're catering for, and making sure you cater for that number of people, and don't stick out an extra 5 covers just to keep the buffet looking pretty and healthy. When the food's gone, it's gone. You don't want to end up having 5 left over to just throw in the bin because you didn't want it to look empty. So those sorts of things that we just can't afford to do anymore.
Well, hopefully we're going to have a bit more of an exploration into this topic over the coming months. So look out for our episode where we'll deep dive into F&B profitability. One of the other stories that particularly got your interest in the last week or so, Johnny, was the fact that Premier Inn had its advert banned for promoting rooms from only £35 a night by the Advertising Authority. I mean, I think this has been quite commonplace across all industries, and we've seen it with the likes of Ryanair and other holiday companies. What's your thoughts here?
Yeah, well, I mean, a couple of thoughts. First one is how they can service a room at £35 a night and turn a profit. I don't know. So that's Premier Inn's problem. But I think this is, something across so many industries where products are promoted at a from price or a starting price, and you can have add-ons and things like this. But certainly looking at the hotel industry specifically, a lot of the hotels I've worked with, we do it direct through our own distribution channels. We do it with third-party channels where we do seasonal offers and flash sales and things like that. And there's always a lead-in price. Now, as long as you're reasonable and realistic, and your from price is available for a good selection of dates throughout the offer, the travel window, and it's bookable, then I don't see a problem with it. And I think the majority of people understand it's a from price, and lower demand dates, for example, Sunday nights, you're probably going to get more availability at it. Friday, Saturday nights, you're probably not, because they're busier, and that's the way it goes. Also got to be careful, because a lot of offers are based around dynamic pricing, which would be maybe a fixed percentage off your best flexible rate, or to be a package with extras added on to a variable price or a daily rate. And of course, the daily rates will change as time goes on, and then your derived rate will also change, and the from price might disappear. So you've got to keep an eye on that. And perhaps Premier Inn did something like that, and they just took their eye off the ball, and the £35 that were available disappeared. I don't know, but it's a bit of a nanny state. I mean, if you like the offer and you can afford the price that's being offered for when you want to stay, book it, and if you can't, then you don't. But I don't see the point in crying about it. There's bigger things in life to worry about.
You would think so, but I guess that's why the Advertising Standards Authority is there. That's people love to complain, and they've left their doors open for people to be able to send those complaints in. We will be exploring this subject a little bit further in our June issue as we look deeper into marketing and e-commerce. And we've just actually launched an interview looking at drip pricing and what hoteliers need to be aware of in and around the regulation there, which is also very connected with the sort of like from only packages.
Travel Market Life.
Right, coming up then, let's have a conversation looking at the IHTF 2024, which had just finished in April. You'll be able to check out actually some of the interviews and conversations that I've already had with some of the attendees and delegates. The LinkedIn live session is already available on our podcast channel, as well as a conversation with the Cheval Collection, Mustafa Gökçen, about the purpose of technology in hospitality. A conversation with Marriott Hotels and Florian Hepp, looking at employer branding to attract staff. With Clink Hostels, we speak to Diogo Vaz Vieira, looking at trends in hostel market, and Citizen M with Bojan Pavicic, talking about technology innovation, as well as Melia International with Sofia Montaner, looking at the evolution of hotel marketing. So plenty there for you to get your ears into and to learn a bit more about their approaches and how they're tackling many of the changes that's happening in the market. Now, there are so many fascinating conversations that we were having, Johnny, at the IHTF this year. There was quite a packed schedule, particularly of content from across the two streams in technology and operations auditorium and the marketing and distribution stream. You were able to go to both. I was stuck in the marketing and distribution, which I found, really interesting. And there was, a real sense of passion and interest from the hoteliers presenting and some really good insights from the vendors. And what about you? What were some of the topics and some of the presentations that you went to and you found particularly of interest?
There was a lot going on. It was a very busy 3 days. You're right. I was able to float around between the two streams and pick out the best sessions. A lot of meetings and ad hoc conversations with people as well across the day, the 3 days. A lot of the topics were around the future of AI. I found that quite a predominant topic this year, and several vendors already embracing that technology and offering their wares to the hotels to use in their suite of systems that they already have. So I think that was probably the newest thing this year over last year.
I know one of the things that you picked up on when I was speaking to you at IHTF was RPA, robotic process automation, these little worker robots. Now, I'm glad that you picked up on this, and it was something that you know really excited and interested you. And I'm not going to explain it because I've already done a podcast on it. And if anybody wants to hear about it, they can listen to the hotel partner interview that I did with Louvre Hotels. But just tell us, for the audience here, what your understanding of RPA is.
Yeah, I will do, because I was impressed with it. I've never come across it before, and I'll give a little shout out to the company who I had a meeting with. They're called Centelli. And they have a product that they call it a digital worker. And what it does, it's not AI, it doesn't learn, it doesn't develop itself or anything like that. It's a bot that you would install, and it doesn't have to be on an office desktop. It can sit on a server in a dark cupboard or anywhere really. But you basically program it with a set of repetitive processes that are a normal part of your staffed office, or your office with the carbon interface, as we like to refer to them, the actual people who do monotonous tasks on a daily basis, and which are boring. There's no question about it, and people get bored after 15 minutes of doing the same system entry or data entry of some description. But these robotic workers, or digital workers as they call them, will perform these tasks continuously with no complaints, no lunch breaks, no days off sick, and they just do the job. As long as the process is the same each time, and you program it correctly to start with, it will just carry on forever. It's very similar to an Excel macro. If you're familiar with how Excel macros work, again, you program it to click on cell A1, copy it, go to cell B4 and paste the value, and it could just keep doing that forever until you tell it to stop. And these do the same thing. And they had a little short video, an example of it, entering a reservation into Opera. And you could see on the screen each field that opened, and it put in the dates of stay, and it put in the name, and put in the room type, and all of these sort of things. And it was picking these up from, one of the functions it does, amongst other things, but it can read emails that are in a template format. So if you get a lot of bookings from a particular agent, which are always on an email template, and they're always in the same format, and the arrival date's always in the same place, the name's in the same place, the room type, the rate, all of these, your credit card number and stuff, they're always in exactly the same place on this email template. This digital worker can read that and copy them and enter them into Opera as a reservation. So, for example, if you did a campaign on the likes of, flash site like Secret Escapes or Travel Zoo or something like that, or Voucher or whatever, when the bookings come in, and this robot, you can program it to go pick out any email that's a new booking from one of these agents, read it, put it in the system, and then your res teams don't have to worry about it. They see it in the sales inbox, and they can go, the robot will pick that up. I don't need to deal with that one. I can deal with the real guest phone calls or the real guest queries. And it was really clever. I was really impressed with that.
I think it's fascinating, as you say, it is effectively replacing those mundane administrative tasks, which is essentially copy, paste for someone else to handle. And at a time when we're struggling to find people to fill some of these roles, it's a great way of using your resources. Now, the company that you mentioned was?
Centelli, Centelli.
Excellent. And just a couple others that I'm aware of. Affy, they're a great company looking at RPA, as well as RoboSize.me. And there's another company that also looks at sort of managing your emails in a similar way, called Hotel Resbot. So something to consider if you certainly need some administrative help within your hotels. Okay, so coming up shortly, we've got an interview with Tess Matisson from Zaplox, one of the sponsors of IHTF, to find out about her advice about looking at tech stacks and the technology to implement. We'll also be hearing from Simone Puerto about the future of technology in hotels. So, Johnny, just before we go over to those interviews, I know we're going to be in Portugal next year for the IHTF.
Yes, looking forward to it.
Great little location, eh?
Yeah, definitely. I've not been before. I've very briefly I've passed through, but never really spent any time in Portugal. So I'm looking forward to that, actually.
Yeah, and I know they've also launched one in Dubai, and they've got one coming to Singapore as well. So they are going truly international, and I'm keeping my fingers nice tight together, hoping that I might be invited to chair one of those as well. So who knows? And listeners, you might get to see me in the Middle East or Asia sometime soon. Just maybe contact Arena to get me there.
If you need an assistant, Ryan, I'm sure I'm available.
All right, I'll look at it, Johnny. All right, Johnny, lovely to hear from you. Lovely to speak to you again, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Ryan. Take care. See you soon.
Travel Market Life.
On the line now is Tess Matisson, President and CEO of Zaplox, friend of the show. Welcome back, Tess. How are things going in the world of Zaplox?
Oh, it's going great. It's golden, Ryan. How are you?
Very well, thank you very much. I'm sorry we missed each other at IHTF. That is absolutely crazy. We were both in the same space for 3 days.
I know. I have no idea how you managed to avoid me for 3 full days. Shame on me, because it would have been great to catch up. But hey, we're catching up now.
Yeah, and I understand it went well. You had a lot of good business meetings.
We did. There's just something about, and it's funny coming from, the president and CEO of a technology company, but there's just something about meeting in person, either if it's for catching up or making new acquaintances. So I really enjoy every now and then to go to these events. And then, as you probably noticed, I'm not stuck behind the desk or the table. I'm out there mingling, hanging out with people. So it was a great event.
Making the most of the show. Absolutely.
There you go.
So you've joined our special technology feature for today, and what I really wanted to get from you was how hotels should look to approach their tech stack.
Oh, you're going to love this answer. A very political one. It depends.
Okay.
No, but it really does, Ryan, because, I often get what should I do? What tech stack should I invest in? And I say, well, it depends. It depends on where you are, what's your starting point, and maybe more importantly, what's your ambition? Because what we tend to do, we tend to look at our competition, and we tend to look at, the unicorns of digital, kind of the most digitally savvy in our industry. And then we try to do what they do, but that might not make sense to your business. So what I always try to say when hoteliers or, brands or management companies come and say, like, where should I invest? Well, it depends. It depends on where you are, where you want to go, and how much money you have to get from A to C. What I normally say, what you should not do, is just go for what everyone else is going for. You need to go for what makes sense to your business.
Excellent. Now, I mean, there's so many different applications and systems that can play part of this ecosystem. What do you feel are essential today?
Well, of course, you're going to have the old school core ones, what I say, the heart of your business, like your distribution and your reservations technology. That's going to always be the core. And what I think what we're looking at now, they're becoming more and more essential, is really to have that very kind of sophisticated integration layer that's going to enable you to scale and to grow. So instead of just having core systems, to have that middle layer that tie these core systems together, and that's easy for you to add to, and that's getting more and more essential. But again, it depends on your ambitions and where you're going. I think what we see more and more is the streamlining of the very fragmented tech stacks that are out there, and that there's a need, especially for brands or companies that are growing, to have that middle layer that can streamline across different versions. Or, let's say that you have one PMS today, and then you're acquiring a group that has like 3 different PMSs. And what's your middleware? And we see that more and more. So I think that when more and more moving from the one-stop shop to a middle layer that can actually connect all the dots.
Lovely. Now, I mean, it can be a big move, and you need to really be thinking about, how you get senior management and staff behind the systems. What's your advice?
So first of all, don't talk about the systems. Technology is not doing anything for you unless you tie it to your business objectives. For me, technology is the enabler for you to grow your business, to decrease your costs, to, whatever is important in your agenda. So when I was with brand side for 15 years, and when I went shopping for technology, I looked at what business challenges or opportunities do we have, and how can I reverse engineer from that into a system that can help me reach those targets or those objectives. when we talk about the staff, and I think this goes across, you need to understand what's the value for them. So whenever we introduce new technology to our staff, whether that's operations or it's HQ or what have you, we need to find what's the value for them. Will it make their life easier? Will they save time? Will they, be able to give better service? And I think if we leave out the technology and talk about the value proposition, it's going to be way easier for them to understand why I want to make this investment. At the end of the day, Ryan, it's going to come down to what's in it for me.
Now, I mean, one of the key things that you really enjoy, I know, and we've had conversations about this when you bring on a new client, is this opportunity to get in a room and do a whiteboarding session. Why is that so important?
Oh, Ryan, I love whiteboarding sessions. And I've always done it. I've loved the whiteboarding sessions so long. There was actually Blackboard when I started. That's how long I've enjoyed it. No, but, first, I think that we are providing technology that is going to complement either their existing tech stack or their business. And we can go out and demo a product. I think that's like 19th century way of selling technology. I want to add value to every customer. And to do that, I need to understand where they are, where they want to go. And I need to identify what's the gray space that they have today. And is there an opportunity for me to fill that gray space? And to do that, we need to co-design. And I think that when you have that collaboration in a room with individuals, that's a prerequisite to having the collaboration between your different tech stacks when you're actually implementing this.
Before you go, I really would be keen to know what technology you're particularly excited about for the industry right now.
For me, it's really that I can see that we're moving into NFC for mobile keys instead of Bluetooth. That we are doing this through the wallet, for example, with Apple, and hopefully soon we'll see Google there as well. And the reason why this is exciting for me, because it really enhances the guest experience. The technology is now at a point where the guest experience is optimal, which is great. And also because in 2010, believe it or not, Ryan, it's now 14 years ago, I was part of the team that did the world's first pilot with NFC technology at the hotel where I was managing. So for me, it's like 14 years after we piloted this, it's actually going live in the market. And I think this is such a huge shift. And it's the missing piece of the digital guest experience puzzle that we've been laying for so many years.
Awesome. Now, Tess, thank you. It's been fast. It's been furious, but it's been absolutely wonderful to catch up with you and for you to give us your insights today.
Thank you so much for having me, Ryan. And next time, let's meet up in person.
Travel Market Life.
So I caught up with Simone Porto, the futurist, consultant and author, to find out about the future of technology. We've got an extended interview, which you can find on the podcast. But here, I asked him, what are the top technologies on the horizon for the industry?
Well, the first one is, of course, what I called post search. Okay, what we are seeing, and this trend already started a few years ago, but now it's getting bigger and bigger, is that we're not searching for anything anymore, right? And it's what I call the Netflix effect. If you go on Netflix, for example, or if you go on Spotify, it's very unlikely that you go and you check every single show or every single movie, right? It's more the algorithm that will show you suggestion. And Netflix is great in doing this. For example, even changing the artwork of the show based on your preference. So let's say you like Uma Thurman, for example, you've got Pulp Fiction, but with a cover with Uma Thurman on that, right? And there's a lot of literature about that and how this hugely increased the CTR. And this is something we're seeing with travel as well, So we're moving from travel brands obsessed with search engine optimization to travel brands that now needs to understand how they can make sure they fit with this new search or post-search paradigm. You heard about Google testing out travel assistant journeys directly into the search engine result page, right? So it could be that in just a couple of years, when you try to search for, weekend in Paris, you have this beautiful journey created by, in the case of Google, by Gemini, by AI, right? And this completely changes the way we do market our properties. And even the way we do market, flights and everything that is around traveling, and that this will completely change the way guests and travelers book travel, and he will have a huge impact. The second one is probably generative advertisement. That's another thing that is super interesting, and we're seeing this more on social media, Meta or TikTok, but Google, for example, is testing now in the US only for now a conversational advertisement, meaning that today, if you're a small hotel, for example, and you want to launch a campaign, you need to go through a web agency, right, or an advertisement agency. And for a lot of these hotels, having this middleman is super expensive, and it's not sustainable. Now, what you can do is basically you can talk directly with an LLM model. So basically, you talk to Gemini, like you talk to ChatGPT, and say, look, I want to make sure that I do have this campaign because I'm launching, I don't know, a New Year's Eve special offer for my hotel. Make sure that you can do that, and the system will write the copy, will start bidding, and it will basically completely empower even small properties or micro properties to have an amazing advertisement visibility that they cannot have now because of the costs involved. But if you think about it, that's super scary for a lot of people working in the industry, because this will completely change. Advertisement companies as we know them now could basically disappear if that becomes the standard, right? And the third one is more hardware, if you will, and is for the first time, I think we're looking at a new era of devices. If you think about it, since the introduction of the iPhone, nothing really changed. Okay, to a level that now there's no real innovation in phones anymore, right? And since 2018, we know that traffic on the web is mainly mobile first. For some industries, mobile only, but it's been always a mobile-centric world, right? Now we're seeing a lot of new devices, and I think a lot of these devices will fade, but I think they're opening the street for a new era of devices. And you may look at, I will tell you 3 names that I think it's worth taking a look at. And one, of course, is Vision Pro by Apple. They're clunky, they're big, they're heavy, but they are something new in terms of devices. The second one are smart glasses. Meta, for example, I was reading Meta now is implementing even AI into Meta glasses. The cool thing about it is that they're beautiful, because they're Ray-Ban. They're not horrible Google glasses from 2014. And the third one is Rabbit R1. So I don't know if you heard about this device. They're starting to ship them now. I saw an unboxing. Super interesting device, totally AI-based, no OS, no apps. And this is really changing the way we interact with the web, because for the first time, the web is changing, but also the devices we're using are changing. So I would say that to cut it down to a short answer is post-search, generative advertisement, and transitional devices.
Really interesting there, particularly as you point out this whole idea of hardware and how that's going to innovate. And when you also look at how emotionally led booking and buying now is so much driven, as you say, by guest preferences or consumer preferences. And it was a conversation I was having at the IHTF as well about that influence that that actually being more sentimental, being more emotionally charged in your marketing is going to drive much more return than generic standard imagery and descriptions. And certainly can see that round the corner. But as you say, hoteliers with so little time, we need the platforms, we need the technology for them to be able to do it. Now, I mean, hospitality technology has been sort of moving at leaps and bounds over the last 15 years, but there is still a little bit of holdback from particularly maybe the larger hotelier brands, but also difficulty for the independent brands to find that investment to really employ some of these new technologies that have come out. What do you feel, though, are the frustrations that you have with the hospitality technology market?
Well, it's always the same. It's the fact that I think a lot of these properties, they would love to innovate. They cannot do it because in order to do that, they need to get to their data, to the root of their data. The problem with the root of their data is that usually they are in a billion different software that act as data silos. So that's the problem, And I think we will have this conversation more and more now that pretty much every single industry is trying to integrate some level of AI. If you want to do it with hospitality, you need to integrate your PMS first thing. And this is where the problems start, because a lot of these PMSs, they've been built in a pre-cloud era, pre-API era. So it's very difficult. We need to make sure that the basic technology and the technology where the data are is as open as possible.
So where do you feel hotels need to double down their efforts, especially over the next year or two?
They need to make sure that infrastructure-wise, they're ready for the change. Like just a few years ago, you could make marketing plans for the next 5 years. Probably you now need to make marketing plans for the next 6 months. That's it. Be ready to change your mind. Don't fall in love with ideas. Just be as fluid as possible. So keep your technology lean, open as much as possible, and be ready to change your mind as soon as you can.
Now, some exciting news. You have just published a book.
Yeah, it just came out last week. I've been working on this. This is my second book. And I've been working on the book for probably 3 years. It's been 3 years of research, 3 years of interviews and a conversation I had with amazing people like yourself. And I think it's probably the best thing I wrote. It's not just because of what I did right, but because of all the amazing contribution that I do have. I do really have some amazing people on this book. Probably a lot of people in the hospitality world will be familiar with Terry Jones, founder of Travelocity and Kayak. And then I have Louis Rosenberg, the first person to be able to work on a functioning AR augmented reality system. And then I got Zoltan Isvan. It's running for president in the US with the Transhumanist Party. It's an amazing person, really. So it's I think there's like an amazing group of people that gave some kind of vision of what the future could be. It's a book about travel, hospitality, and the future. It's more like really it's a vision book. So I don't think it's a manual. You will not learn too much, but I try to understand where all of this is going, and that's basically what we did now in this 15 minutes. Basically, it's just okay. We know how to do stuff now. We all know how to do like a Facebook campaign or an Instagram campaign or Google campaign, but what will be the landscape in 5 years? And that is the question that I'm trying to answer. And I hope I did.
Travel Market Life.
So that is it for the Hospitality Monthly Review Show this month. Slightly different, and you do miss out on the quick quiz. I am so sorry for that. But we will look at getting our panellists together for the next edition in June on looking at e-commerce and marketing. But in the meantime, don't forget you can check out all our other episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or anywhere you listen to your podcasts, including our website, www.travelmarket.life. Or sign up to our LinkedIn and make sure you get the latest posts for when we launch a new episode, as well as our newsletter, the way you can sign up through our website as well. Remember, please, that this is all put on for you, and it's not sponsored yet. So the more you can help share and really get this amongst your colleagues, your peers, your associates, and spread this as far and wide as possible, will really enable us to be able to grow and further invest in this. Thanks ever so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy our upcoming summary of IHTF in a series of interviews that we're going to be launching with some of the other delegates. Thanks again. I'm your host, Ryan Haynes. Ciao for now.
For more, go to Travel Market Life. The music sensation by Zach Nelson is reproduced under license from Storyblocks. Travel Market Life is a Haynes Marcoms digital marketing agency production, serving the travel and technology industries.